Hello? I have this giant DeWalt saw, DWS779, and I'm getting rid of it. It has a major problem, and I just can't take it anymore. This video isn't going to be about telling you, oh, go out and buy all the red tools, go out and buy all the blue ones, go buy the green ones. DeWalt makes great tools. It's just this particular saw, I don't like the way it's set up. Let me show you what I'm talking about. This counter or workbench is just slightly deeper than standard. It's a little over 25 inches. Standard is 24. When you try and put the 779 or the 780 on a workbench, it's almost 30 inches off the wall. And that's without even any dust collection being hooked up. This is just the pipe. There's a bag that goes back here, or you could hook it to your shop vac. But when you're trying to make a 90-degree cut, you can't hook anything up back there at 30 inches, so you're gonna have to pull it a little bit further off the wall to hook something else up back there. Now you're at 31 at a minimum. That's why I have this cabinet that comes 35.5 off the wall. To fit this saw, and I can make a full swing with it. Can't pull the trigger on this unless you flip this little lever right here. Kind of hard to see. This is very convenient the way this works. You just slide your finger across the lockout and then you can pull the trigger to operate the saw. So I really like that, and the handle's perfectly comfortable. To lock or unlock the DeWalt, there's a little pin right here. You just take a little pressure off by pushing down and you pull this pin out, and then the saw can go up and down. And then you push this in to lock it back in place so you can carry it around. To lock the saw from sliding back and forth, you have two ways to lock it in place. First one is you can set it exactly where you want it, and then crank down on this knob in the back, and that'll keep the saw from sliding around. And you can put it wherever you like it. All the way out, all the way in, locks down anywhere along there. Another way to lock it in place is on the left-hand side. You have this lever here. You can flip this around and it hooks on this screw here, and that stops the saw from moving back and forth. This is mainly for storage and transporting, so you're not relying on just this screw here to hold it in place. It swings to the left all the way to 50 degrees. Actually a little bit beyond 50, but 50 degrees. And it swings to the right all the way to 60 degrees. With the handle all the way up, saw is just under 30 inches high off your work surface. So if you wanted to build an enclosure or some kind of tent for dust collection, your handle's got to be at least 30 inches. You're going to need room for your hand. You're talking about probably 32 inches at a minimum of height you need above the saw. To make a bevel cut, you need to, of course, slide the fence back some. And then you need to reach around to the back of the saw, and there's a big wheel back here that you loosen up. And then once you loosen that, you can tip the saw to the left 45 degrees. But to go to the right, you have to reach to the back of the saw, and there's another lever that you have to turn, and that'll let you tip the saw to the right. So both of those adjustments are in the back of the saw. You also have these stops here for the bevel, one at 22.5 and the other at 33 and something. It's your crown stop if you're going to cut with the bevel cut. These are on both sides of the saw. If you need to make a cut where you don't want the saw to go all the way down, you need it to repeatedly stop at a certain point. Say you're cutting tenons on the end of a board. There's a stop right here, you flip down and this black screw hits it, and that'll stop the blade from going down all the way. And to adjust it, you loosen this wing nut and turn the screw until you get the proper height. And then when you're done, you just flip that out of the way and you get full travel again. That's really nice the way this works. The adjustment's a little tricky because you have to get the screw where you want it and then tighten the wing nut by holding the screw, but it's very repeatable. To make miter cuts, you just push this button down and turn it, and you get positive stops at 15, 22 and a half for your crowns, and then at 45. If you don't like that, you can flip this little lever here up, and that basically just holds the button down for you, and you have free swing. None of the stops engage. And then for something in between, if you had to do 7 degrees, you would just put it at 7 degrees and push down on the lever, and that locks it in place. Like I said when I started this video, I'm not here to bash DeWalt. This is a great saw. It's very accurate. It's made the cuts that I've asked it to make, and it does it perfectly. It's just the fact that the saw needs to be on a workbench that's 3 feet deep if you have a wall behind you, which if you're working in a home shop, you're going to have a wall, and this is going to be sitting on a workbench. And then you're going to have problems supporting your workpiece if the rest of your counters are not 3 feet deep. So I'm getting rid of this saw, and I'm going to be replacing it. Well, here's my replacement saw. I went with the Makita LS1219L, and doesn't look much smaller than the DeWalt, and that's because it really isn't. They have both about the same capacity as far as 90-degree cuts, but the big difference is the way that the slide is set up, so let me show you that first. First thing you'll notice, still clearance back here. This is with the saw all the way back. This is going to work fine on a standard workbench as far as 24 inches deep. I can even go back a little bit further than this. The dust collection hooks up on the top here, so you don't have to worry about a hose coming out the back. And I've checked out some other videos online. Supposedly this dust collection system on this saw is better than the DeWalt, the Bosch, and a host of other saws. This supposedly has the best dust collection as far as miter saws. Let's start with the locking mechanism to unlock the saw so it can go up and down. You pull this little dial out and turn it 90 degrees, and that allows the saw to go up and down. And this one you can lock in the upright position. So here's the big difference between the Makita and the DeWalt. The rails on the Makita come forward. They don't stick out the back of the saw, so you don't need nearly as much room in the back of the saw. It's going to work fine on a 2-foot deep counter. And same as for the up and down, you just pull this out, turn it 90 degrees, and the saw can slide forward and back on the rails. And then you can lock it in place. I haven't found a way to lock this in place midway on the rails, but to be honest, I've never needed that feature on the DeWalt. It was just there, but I haven't found a way to lock this in place. Miter cuts on this are handled pretty much the same. The major difference being is this will go 60 degrees to the left and 60 degrees to the right. So it has a little bit more capacity than the DeWalt as far as miter cuts. To To operate for miter cuts, it's very similar. You have a push button here with positive stops. All your common stops are going to be there for your crowns and your 45s, and then 60. And then it has a lever here that you can flip down to disengage the positive stops. And if you need to go to an in-between angle, you just put it where you need it and then tighten the knob down. To bevel this saw, you have to remove the upper fences. It's just a thumb screw and you just take them off. And here's another functional difference that's really nice. To bevel it, you loosen this knob and then you can bevel to the left all the way to 45 degrees, and then you go back up and you can tighten it up. To bevel to the right, there's a push button on the side here you have to press, and then you can bevel it to the right 45 degrees. To do a stopped cut as far as depth, there's a lever right here. You pull it to the left, and that's going to cause this screw right here to hit the bracket, and you pull down and it'll hit and stop right there, and then you just push it back to get a full depth of cut. This is a lot easier to adjust than it is on the DeWalt. You just twist this knob here. I guess there's some kind of rubber or something in there. It does not feel like it's going to vibrate to a different position. A little bit of resistance to turn this, and that's how you can set your cut. Another difference is the Makita has a laser on it. I'm not sure how useful that's going to be, but if that's something that's important to you, you can know that this comes with the laser.
Arm the laser.
Here's the switch for the laser. You can turn it on and off right here. The trigger lockout's a little bit different. You have a thumb button here before you can pull the trigger. This is my first time turning this on, and let me tell you what a difference. The Makita has a soft start, and it's a lot different than the DeWalt. When you fire up the DeWalt, it kind of jerks a little bit, and if you're trying to line up a cut, it could affect your cut. This starts up nice and slow. That's a really nice feature. The bevel stops on the Makita are different than on the DeWalt. You have this little lever here that it'll pop into place when you get to 22.5 or to 33.9. It's not so bad when you're going to the left like this, but you're going to the right, and that locks into place. You got to kind of reach under like this to pull it out and go past it. Not sure I like that when you're beveling to the right, but it is okay when you're going to the left. It's really easy to use. I guess just don't use those stops when you're beveling to the right. And then you flip it up and it locks out. And it also has table extensions on either side. The DeWalt came with them. I never installed them, and I'll probably take these off. So what do you think? Did I make the right choice? I'm gonna say probably half of you are gonna say it was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. I should have kept the DeWalt. And another half of you are gonna say it's the best thing you could have ever done. The DeWalt's just no good for a home shop. So put your comments down below. Let me know what you think. Am I gonna be happy with this saw or not? I certainly hope so. The price of them are about the same. The Makita's a little bit more. I think this was around $700. The DeWalt usually goes for around $600. So price difference, not a lot. It's really just the position of the rails and how this thing slides to the front versus having the rails stick out the back.